The future doesn't happen. We shape it through our decisions. And this is called agency, the capacity we have to take control of our lives. And of course, it's limited. A frustrating reality we are all familiar with is the gap that exists between our decisions and their outcomes. I'm a scientist, and I've been working on the links between people, forests, and policies for over 30 years. And this gap, I have found it everywhere. From the coffee plantations in India to the forest concessions in Central Africa, from the highways of the ministries in Jakarta to the boardrooms here in Zurich. Let's take an example. Let's talk about tropical deforestation. Despite more than 30 years of pledges, declarations, and alliances, it's still rising. On this topic, as on many others, it seems that we keep missing our targets. We had environmental targets for deforestation for 2020, and we've missed them. We now have 2030, 2035, 2050 targets, but the problem is that the way these targets have been set has not changed. And therefore, it is very likely that we are going to miss them too. It looks like, on these issues, we are on tracks, and that it is impossible for us to change direction. It looks like we lack agency. And the problem is that we know where these tracks are taking us. We figured out that the reason for this gap between decisions and outcomes is not to be found in satellite imagery, legal books, or corporate additions. The answer lies in the way we make decisions. The answer lies in our minds. Yours, mine, theirs, all of us. We take decisions on the basis of what we want and what we think will happen. Now, if we are blinded by what we want or mistaken about what will happen, then our decisions don't have the intended outcomes. Let's leave aside the things we want for a moment. Let's focus on the things we think will happen. There are many reasons for us also to be wrong on that. We can be wrong about nature, but we can be wrong about what people will do. And we can be wrong about ourselves too. People and ourselves. Now that's something. There might be the key for us to find a way to shift directions. We could understand this better. Maybe we can close the gap. But for this, we need what psychologists call a theory of mind. In other words, to be able to think what others think. We all do that. We all have that. A theory of mind is what lets us be social beings. We can read people. We can understand how they feel. We can anticipate what they will do next within reason. Can we do better? I want to propose you precisely that. I want to present to you a complete and universal theory of mind. Complete in the sense of mathematics. It means that it covers all possible situations, and universal in the sense that it applies to all of us, irrespective of gender, race, affluence, cultural background, or spiritual affiliation. It will help us understand why people don't change the things they are doing. It will help us understand why change doesn't happen in our lives, in our companies, or in our countries. Think of it as a bridge that will close the gap between decisions and their outcomes. This is a narrow path, and it contains 4 gates blocking the way. At each gate, there will be a question, and depending on our answer to this question, we can move on or we're stuck. And if we're stuck anywhere, we don't change. We keep doing things, business as usual. Are you ready? Let's try. Let's try to understand each other. Okay? Immediately, as we begin our journey, we will find the first gate. And on the first gate, the question that we are being asked is, are you aware of the problem? If we're not aware, if we are uninformed, we have no reason to change. Think, for example, of a farmer unaware of the toxicity of the pesticides he's using. He will continue using them. The first gate is therefore the gate of awareness, and information is the key that opens it. Now, in the field of climate change, virtually everyone has heard about this issue, so this first gate is now wide open. But it was not always the case, and in other topics, it certainly isn't. Immediately after the first gate, we will find the second one. And this time, the question that we are being asked is it real? Do you believe in what you've just heard? Do you believe in what science is telling you? If we do not believe, we are deniers. And as deniers, we don't want to change. We actually resist the idea of change because it goes against our beliefs. Right? I have had discussions with Brazilian farmers lamenting the drought that is hitting their crop, but refusing to hear that there is a link between deforestation and rainfall patterns. If our beliefs do not rest on something solid, as deniers, we will feel attacked, and we might respond with backlash. The second gate is the gate of our beliefs and the things we hold true. And to open it, we need to abandon old beliefs and embrace new ones. And this is something quite difficult, and we don't do that alone. If we move on, we will find the third gate. This time, the question that we are being asked is, do you care? Is it important? And if we don't think this is our problem, we are occupied. We have better things to do. As occupied, we will dismiss the problem. We will not give it attention, resources, funding, and therefore it's unlikely that we will ever find a solution. There are many reasons to be occupied. Some of them are very legitimate. Some of us are struggling to survive. Others are less so. Imagine an asset manager doubling down on fossil fuels in the portfolio, knowing very well the impact it will have, but the prospects just being too good to be ignored. Now, as occupieds, if we're cornered, we will probably delegate the problem to someone else. We might create another commission. Or we can push it to a different class, a different country. It's somebody else's problem, not ours. However, if we believe that change threatens our capacity to pursue the ends that matter to us, then we will respond and resist change. And we might want to develop alliances with the deniers, for example. We can even become deniers ourselves, even if only in words. The third gate is a gate of our values and the things we care for. You have seen people in the street clamoring for change. You have seen the signboards, there is no planet B. These are all people that have said they care. These are people that have said that they won't change and that they are willing to pay the price. Some of them are even willing to go to prison for that. All of them have passed the third gate. And if we do that, we will find the fourth and final gate. And this time, the question that we are being asked is, can you do something about it? And many of us stop there in frustration. We are the concern. This is a very difficult situation to be in. That frustration is actually what denotes cognitive dissonance. We want something and it escapes our means. This is what eco-anxiety really means. consider this. What do we do as human beings when we have this frustration? There are three things often that we will do. We can convince ourselves change is impossible. We can deny our own self-agency, and then we become deniers. Or maybe we surrender, we accept things as they are, and we decide to mind our own business, becoming occupied. Or maybe we can turn that frustration into anger and direct it towards the uninformed, the deniers, and the occupied. It takes stamina, grit and determination to be concerned, but that's not enough, because grit and determination will not open the door. Something else is needed. As long as our society is made of uninformed, deniers, occupied, and concerned citizens, change is impossible. And we are locked in a tug of war that can spiral down in conflict. But there is an alternative. For beyond the fourth gate lies a fifth kind of decision maker. Those that have heard about the problem, those that have accepted its reality, that have faced up their responsibility and organized their lives and means at their disposal to actually have a significant change. And we call them architects. Architects are the ones that will make things happen that everybody thought was impossible. Now, make no mistake, this is not a call for a providential leader that will show us the way, because the problem is way too complex. Architects don't just go through the gates, they actually open the gates for everyone else to follow. So, now I'm turning to all of us, concerned about social justice, climate change, and the loss of biodiversity. How do we open the gates? How do we become architects of change? And the answer in reality is that there are many ways to become architects. I don't know you. You will have to find. But the first step might very well be the identification of these four gates for what they are. Information, values, beliefs, and means are the four gates that stand between us and change. And they all have different locks, and they all require different keys. What works for one doesn't work for the others. You will not change someone's beliefs by piling additional information on their heads. That's not how humans work. So pick the right key to unlock the door that is blocking you. Understanding this will also help you help others. We are currently using this framework with the government of Colombia and the support of the French Development Agency to actually develop a low transition pathway for a just transition for this country. We are designing shortcuts that help people with different beliefs and values sit at the table and use the same information to find ways to make change happen. And change is happening. How do you open the doors? Cultivate the qualities that are associated with each state. Curiosity, not to remain ignorant. Critical thinking, not to defend false belief. Empathy, to care for the others. And creativity, to apply the limited power you have in your hands and develop new alliances in order to make things happen. This will not erase power asymmetries, this will not end suffering, but it will help you also identify when others are trying to lock the doors for you. Don't let that happen. Knowledge is power. Together today we've opened the first door. The second one is believing in your own self-agency. The third step is your responsibility. The future doesn't happen, but we can make it together. Thank you very much.